The champagne glass trembled in Sienna's hand as her husband's voice carried across the crowded ballroom. My wife. Oh, she doesn't work. Never has. Just sits at home all day spending my money. Derek's laughter boomed through the Montgomery Industries annual gala. Sienna stood frozen near the dessert table, her emerald dress suddenly feeling too tight. Around her, executives and their spouses turned to stare. Some looked away uncomfortably. Others smirked. Must be nice, someone muttered. Derek didn't notice her standing 15 feet away. Or maybe he did and didn't care. He had his arm around Vanessa, the company's marketing director, who wore a dress that cost more than most people's monthly rent. I love Sienna, Derek continued, his words slurring slightly from too much wine. But let's be real. She's been unemployed for 5 years. 5 years. What kind of person just exists like that? Vanessa laughed, touching his chest. Some people are just lucky to find someone to take care of them. The words hit Sienna like physical blows. 5 years of marriage. 5 years of keeping her secret, hoping he loved her for herself. 5 years of pretending to be something she wasn't. She had met Derek at a coffee shop, both reaching for the last blueberry muffin. He was charming, funny, and seemed genuinely interested in who she was as a person. When he asked what she did for work, she'd said she was between jobs, and he'd never pushed. When they married, she told him she preferred to focus on their home, on building their life together. He'd seemed happy with that arrangement. Until now. How do you afford that dress then? Someone asked, and Sienna recognized Patricia from accounting. Derek waved his hand dismissively. I bought it. I buy everything. The house, the car, her clothes, her gym membership. Everything. I'm basically funding another adult's entire existence. The crowd around him had grown. 20 people, maybe more. All watching Derek perform his comedy routine at his wife's expense. Derek, come on, someone said uncomfortably. It was Jerome, one of the senior managers. That's your wife you're talking about. What? I'm just being honest. She's a good woman, don't get me wrong. Beautiful, sweet, makes a great home. But ambitious? Driven? Independent? He laughed again. Not even a little bit. Vanessa pressed closer to him. Some women are just traditional, I guess. Nothing wrong with that. The way she said it made Sienna's stomach turn. The pity in her voice was worse than Derek's mockery. Sienna set down her champagne glass carefully. Her hands were shaking, but she refused to let them see her cry. She'd learned long ago how to school her features into calmness, even when everything inside her was screaming. She walked toward the exit, her heels clicking softly on the marble floor. A few people watched her go. Most didn't notice. Derek certainly didn't. He was too busy explaining how he tried to get her interested in something productive, but she just wanted to relax and enjoy the easy life. Outside, the cool October air hit her face. The parking garage was quiet except for the distant sound of traffic. Sienna found her car, a modest sedan that Derek had always complained wasn't fancy enough for his wife. She sat in the driver's seat and stared at the concrete wall in front of her. She didn't cry. She was past crying. Instead, she pulled out her phone and opened an app that Derek didn't know existed. The screen showed real-time financial data, stock portfolios, and investment returns. At the top, in bold letters, it read, Montgomery Industries Majority Shareholder Dashboard. Underneath that, her net worth, $847 million. Sienna had built her fortune carefully over the past 15 years, starting with a substantial inheritance from her grandmother and turning it into an empire through smart investments, strategic acquisitions, and an almost supernatural ability to predict market trends. She owned controlling shares in Montgomery Industries, the very company where Derek worked. The same company where he made $200,000 a year and thought he was the breadwinner. She'd bought the shares anonymously through a complex network of trusts and shell corporations. The board knew her only as S. Crawford Investments. They'd never met her in person. She'd preferred it that way, letting others manage the day-to-day operations while she made the major decisions from behind the scenes. She'd kept it secret from Derek because she wanted to know he loved her for herself. Not for her money. Not for what she could give him. Just her. Now she knew the truth. Sienna scrolled through her contacts and found her lawyer's number. Helen answered on the second ring. I need to file for divorce, Sienna said quietly. And I need to schedule an emergency board meeting at Montgomery Industries. When? Helen asked, all business. Tomorrow. There was a pause. Are you sure? Sienna looked back at the building where her husband was still entertaining his colleagues with stories about his lazy, unemployed wife. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. She ended the call and started her car. As she pulled out of the parking garage, she didn't look back. That chapter of her life was over. Tomorrow, Derek would learn exactly who he'd been married to, and exactly how badly he'd messed up. Architected character backstory revealing wealth-building journey through narrative. I need to continue with Chapter 2, which reveals Sienna's true identity and background. This should be about 1,000 words and provide the backstory of how she built her wealth while maintaining simple, clear language. Sienna drove home to the penthouse apartment she'd purchased 3 years ago. Derek thought they rented it. He had no idea she owned the entire building. She poured herself a glass of water and sat on the balcony, looking out at the city lights. The view always calmed her. She'd bought this property specifically for this view, paying cash through one of her holding companies. Her phone buzzed. Helen had sent over a preliminary meeting agenda for tomorrow. Sienna reviewed it, making mental notes. But her mind kept drifting back to how it all started. 15 years ago, Sienna had been a college student studying business and finance. Her grandmother, Dorothy Crawford, had been her hero. A brilliant woman who'd built a successful real estate portfolio starting in the 1960s when women couldn't even open bank accounts without a husband's permission. Never let anyone make you small, Grandmother Dorothy had told her. And never let anyone know your full worth until you're certain they value you without it. When Dorothy died, she left Sienna $50 million. The lawyers said it was one of the largest individual inheritances in the state that year. Sienna was 23 years old. She could have spent it on cars, clothes, parties. Most people expected her to. Instead, she spent 6 months studying market trends, reading financial reports, and learning from the best investors she could find. Her first investment was in a struggling tech startup that no one believed in. She bought 30% of the company for $5 million. 3 years later, that company was worth $800 million. Her share was worth $240 million. She reinvested carefully. Commercial real estate, technology companies, green energy startups, medical research firms. She had a gift for seeing potential where others saw risk. By the time she was 30, her net worth had crossed $500 million. She created a complex structure of trusts, LLCs, and investment vehicles to keep her wealth private. She used lawyers and financial advisors who specialized in discretion. She never gave interviews. She never attended high-profile events. She lived modestly and kept her success quiet. When she met Derek 5 years ago, she'd been worth about $600 million. He worked in middle management at Montgomery Industries, a manufacturing company that was publicly traded but struggling. He seemed genuine, kind, and interested in simple things. Dinner dates, movies, walks in the park. She never told him about her money. She wanted to see if he would love her without it. 3 months into dating, she bought controlling shares of Montgomery Industries. 62% of the company, purchased through S. Crawford Investments. She paid $400 million. The board was thrilled. The mysterious investor never interfered, just provided capital and approved major decisions through encrypted communications. Derek never knew his girlfriend owned the company he worked for. When they married 2 years later, Sienna had been worth $750 million. She kept everything separate, maintained her privacy, and continued managing her empire from home while Derek thought she was, what? Reading magazines? Shopping? She wasn't sure what he imagined she did all day. The truth was she worked constantly. She had a home office Derek never entered. She held video conferences while he was at work. She reviewed reports, analyzed market data, and made decisions that affected thousands of employees, including Derek. When he'd been promoted to director last year, it was because Sienna had approved the restructuring plan that created his position. She'd literally given him his job and he didn't know it. She'd told herself it was worth it. Worth the secret, worth the pretending. Because Derek loved her and that was what mattered. Except he didn't love her. He resented her. He was embarrassed by her. Sienna's phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. Hope you enjoyed the party. Derek sure did. Vanessa, the marketing director. Sienna stared at the message. Something about it felt wrong. Too confident. Too familiar. She opened her laptop and accessed the company's internal email system. As the majority shareholder, she had administrative access to everything, though she rarely used it. She searched for emails between Derek and Vanessa. What she found made her stomach drop. 2 years of correspondence. Flirtatious at first, then explicit. Hotel reservations. Dinner receipts. Photos she immediately closed without fully viewing. They'd been having an affair since before Derek's promotion. But it was the recent emails that truly shocked her. Once we're married, we'll have access to everything, Vanessa had written 3 months ago. She's too stupid to have a prenup. You'll get half of whatever she inherited plus alimony. Derek's response, she's not stupid, just lazy and trusting. The prenup thing was genius on my part. Told her they were unromantic. She ate it up. Another email from 2 weeks ago. How much longer? Vanessa asked. Soon. I need to make sure she's completely dependent first. I've been tracking her spending. She barely uses her credit card. I think the inheritance is smaller than we thought. But still, even $1 million or $2 million split would be worth it. Plus, she'll have to get a job after the divorce. That'll be funny to watch. Sienna sat back in her chair. They didn't even know. They thought she had a small inheritance. They thought she was sitting on maybe $1 million from her grandmother. They had no idea she was worth nearly $1 billion. They had no idea she owned Derek's entire career. A cold clarity settled over her. This wasn't just about public humiliation. This was about two people who had calculated and planned to use her, to take from her, to mock her while they did it. She opened a new browser window and started making notes. She had evidence of the affair. She needed evidence of more. She spent the next 3 hours going through company records. And there it was, discrepancies in Derek's expense reports. Small at first, then growing larger. He'd been embezzling from the company. Not much, maybe $50,000 total over 2 years, but enough. Vanessa's reports showed similar issues. Fake vendor invoices, inflated marketing costs. They weren't just cheating on her. They were stealing from her company. Sienna compiled everything into a secure folder. She sent it to Helen with instructions to prepare a complete legal strategy. Then she called her head of security at the building. I need the locks changed on my apartment, she said. Tonight? Yes, Miss Crawford. Any particular reason? My husband won't be living here anymore. At 2 a.m. Derek came home, stumbling and laughing on the phone. Probably with Vanessa. He found his belongings in boxes in the hallway and new locks on the door. He pounded on the door. Sienna. What the hell? She didn't answer. She was already in bed, sleeping better than she had in months. Tomorrow everything would change. Derek's pounding continued for 20 minutes before building security escorted him out. Sienna watched on her phone through the hallway camera, feeling nothing but cold satisfaction. Her alarm went off at 6 a.m. She'd barely slept, but adrenaline kept her sharp. She dressed in a tailored navy suit she'd never worn in front of Derek. Professional, powerful, expensive. Her hair was pulled back in a sleek bun. Diamond studs in her ears, a gift from herself after her first $100 million in profits. Helen arrived at 7 with coffee and a briefcase full of documents. I've reviewed everything you sent, Helen said, spreading papers across Sienna's dining table. The affair evidence is solid. The embezzlement is provable. And the prenup situation works in your favor since you never combined finances anyway. What about the company's shares? Sienna asked. Derek has no claim to them. They were purchased before your marriage through separate entities. He can't touch them. Good. Helen pulled out another folder. I also found something else. I had my investigator do a deeper dive on Vanessa. Sienna opened the folder. Inside were bank statements, text messages, and photos. She has gambling debts, Helen explained. About $200,000 worth. She's been using company funds to cover some of it, but she's still underwater. The affair with Derek wasn't just about romance. She needed someone with access to money. She thought I had money from my grandmother. Exactly. She and Derek were planning to divorce you, take half of what they thought was a modest inheritance, and use it to pay off her debts and start fresh together. Sienna felt a strange calm wash over her. It all made sense now. The way Vanessa had inserted herself into their lives. The couple's dinners that Derek insisted on having with work friends. The way Vanessa always asked subtle questions about Sienna's family, her background, her inheritance. They'd been sizing her up like a mark in a con. There's more, Helen said quietly. The investigator followed them last night after the gala. They went to a hotel. But they also stopped at a real estate office first. She pulled out more photos. Derek and Vanessa looking at property listings, laughing, pointing at houses. They're planning to buy a house together. Soon. With what money? Sienna asked, though she already knew the answer. With what they think they'll get from you in the divorce. Sienna stood and walked to the window. The morning sun was rising over the city, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Her city. Her building. Her company. Her life. Schedule the board meeting for this afternoon, she said. I want Derek there. And Vanessa. Tell them it's mandatory for all department heads. Are you sure you want to do this publicly? Sienna turned to face her lawyer. He humiliated me publicly. He called me lazy, unemployed, a burden. In front of his colleagues. In front of people I've made wealthy through my investments. She picked up one of the documents Helen had brought. Derek's termination papers, already prepared. Yes, Sienna said. I'm sure. Helen nodded. I'll make the arrangements. What about Derek? He's been calling your phone all night. Block him. He can communicate through lawyers now. And if he shows up here? Building security has his photo. He's not allowed on the property. Helen gathered her papers. The board will be shocked when they learn your identity. They'll be more shocked when they learn what their director of operations has been stealing from them. After Helen left, Sienna sat down with her laptop and started going through Derek's digital footprint more carefully. She had access to everything through the company's IT systems. His emails, his calendar, his file shares. What she found was worse than she'd imagined. Derek and Vanessa had been bad-mouthing her to colleagues for months. Group chats where they called her names. Emails where Derek joked about how easy she was to manipulate. Messages where Vanessa called her the trust fund princess and dead weight. They turned her into a joke. Not just between themselves but among people she'd never even met. There were also detailed plans. Notes about how much they thought they could get in the divorce. Calculations about selling the apartment, splitting assets. They'd even drafted a fake list of shared expenses that Derek planned to claim in court, inflating everything to maximize his settlement. They thought they were so smart. They thought she was so dumb. Sienna compiled everything into a master file. She organized it chronologically, highlighted the worst offenses, and created a timeline that showed clear intent to defraud. Then she did something she rarely did. She called her grandmother's old lawyer, a man named Bernard who'd known Dorothy Crawford for 40 years. Sienna, he said warmly when he answered. It's been too long. How can I help you? I need advice, Bernard. Personal advice. She told him everything. The humiliation, the affair, the embezzlement, the plans. When she finished, there was a long silence. Your grandmother would be proud of how you handled this, Bernard finally said. She always said the best revenge is letting people destroy themselves with their own greed. I'm not looking for revenge, Sienna said, though even as she said it, she wasn't sure it was true. I just want justice. Justice and revenge aren't always different things, Bernard replied. What matters is that you're protecting what Dorothy built. What you built. These people tried to take advantage of your kindness. They mistook your privacy for weakness. What would she do? Exactly what you're planning. Dorothy never let anyone disrespect her twice. But she always did it legally, cleanly, and completely. Leave no room for them to recover. They talked for another hour. Bernard shared stories about Dorothy, about the battles she'd fought in business, about the people who'd underestimated her and paid the price. When Sienna hung up, she felt centered. Clear. She spent the rest of the morning preparing. She chose her words carefully, rehearsed her presentation, and reviewed every document one final time. At noon, her phone buzzed. Derek, from a different number. Sienna, please. We need to talk. I don't understand what's happening. Let me explain about last night. I was drunk. I didn't mean those things. She deleted the message without responding. At 1 p.m., Helen texted, board meeting confirmed for 3 p.m. Everyone will be there. Are you ready? Sienna looked at herself in the mirror. The woman staring back was no longer the quiet, invisible wife who stayed home while her husband worked. This was Dorothy Crawford's granddaughter. This was a woman who'd built an empire in silence and was about to reclaim it in front of everyone. I'm ready, she typed back. She grabbed her briefcase, checked her appearance one last time, and headed for the door. Derek's world was about to end. And hers was about to begin. The Montgomery Industries headquarters occupied 30 floors of downtown's most expensive building. Sienna owned that building too, purchased 8 years ago through a real estate trust. Derek had marveled at the architecture once, never knowing his wife held the deed. She arrived at 2 p.m., an hour before the meeting. The security guard at the front desk didn't recognize her. She'd made sure she'd never attended any company functions until last night's disaster. I'm here for the board meeting, she said calmly. Name? Sienna Crawford. He checked his computer, frowned. I don't see you on the list. Call Helen Torres from legal. She'll clear it. 5 minutes later, Sienna was riding the elevator to the top floor, where the executive offices and boardroom were located. Helen met her outside the elevators. Are you nervous? Helen asked. Should I be? You're about to reveal yourself to 12 board members who've been taking your money for years without knowing who you are. And you're about to fire your husband in front of his mistress. So, maybe? Sienna smiled. I'm not nervous. They walked into a private conference room adjacent to the boardroom. Helen had set everything up. Documents organized, presentation loaded, legal papers ready to sign. Walk me through it again, Sienna said. Helen pulled up the meeting agenda on a tablet. At 3 o'clock, the board will convene. Jerome has called the meeting as requested by the majority shareholder. He'll introduce the agenda, quarterly review and special announcement. Will Derek and Vanessa be there? Derek is required to attend as Director of Operations. Vanessa is required as Head of Marketing. Jerome sent the notice to all department heads. Do they know what it's about? No. Jerome only knows that S. Crawford Investments requested an emergency meeting. He doesn't know your S. Crawford. Sienna nodded. And after the introductions? You'll present the quarterly numbers. Nothing unusual there. Then you'll move to new business. That's when you reveal the embezzlement investigation. And Derek's termination? That happens immediately after you present the evidence. I'll serve him the papers in the room. Security will escort him out. What about criminal charges? That's your call. We have enough evidence to prosecute. But it's also enough to ruin him professionally without a trial. If you file charges, it becomes public record. If you don't, he just becomes unemployable in this industry. Sienna considered. Let's see how he reacts first. Helen nodded. And the divorce papers? Those get served tonight at wherever he's staying. I want everything filed today. Done. What about Vanessa? Same process. Evidence presented, termination immediate. But I want her to know about her gambling debts. I want her to know we found everything. Helen made a note. That's going to destroy her. She tried to destroy me. At 2:45, the board members started arriving. Sienna watched on the conference room monitor as they filed into the boardroom. Distinguished men and women in expensive suits, carrying tablets and coffee cups. These were the people who ran her company, who made decisions about her money, who'd never met the person who owned it all. Jerome Wilson, the chairman, was a 60-year-old former CEO with silver hair and a commanding presence. He'd been thrilled when S. Crawford Investments bought majority shares 5 years ago. The capital injection had saved the company from bankruptcy. Patricia Chin from accounting, who'd witnessed last night's humiliation. Thomas Green, CFO. Rebecca Walsh, head of operations. Others whose names Sienna knew from reports but had never met in person. At 2:55, Derek walked in. He looked tired, disheveled. His suit was wrinkled. He'd probably slept in his car or at Vanessa's place. Vanessa arrived right behind him, perfectly dressed as always. She touched his arm as they sat down. The gesture was small, but everyone in the room saw it. Jerome noticed but said nothing. Not his business. At exactly 3 p.m., Helen turned to Sienna. Ready? Sienna stood and smoothed her suit. She picked up her briefcase and walked to the door connecting the two rooms. Gentlemen and ladies, Jerome was saying as she entered, thank you for coming on short notice. We have a special guest today. The representative from S. Crawford Investments has requested to attend this meeting and address the board directly. All eyes turned to the door as Sienna walked in. The room went silent. Derek's face went white. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. No words came out. Vanessa's confident smile faltered, then disappeared. Good afternoon, Sienna said, her voice steady and clear. My name is Sienna Crawford. I am S. Crawford Investments. I own 62% of this company. Jerome stood up quickly. Miss Crawford? Oh, we've been trying to meet you for years. This is an honor. Please sit down. We have business to discuss. She walked to the head of the table where Jerome had been sitting. He moved aside without question, recognizing the authority in her presence. Sienna set down her briefcase and looked around the table. Every face showed shock except for Helen's, who stood by the door with a slight smile. I know this is surprising, Sienna continued. I've preferred to remain anonymous since purchasing controlling shares 5 years ago. But circumstances have changed, and I felt it was time to take a more active role in the company's operations. Of course, Jerome said. We're thrilled to have you here. Your investments have transformed this company. Derek still hadn't spoken. He was staring at Sienna like she was a ghost. Before we begin, Sienna said, I need to address a personal matter that has become a business matter. She opened her briefcase and pulled out a folder. Derek Harrison is my husband. Or rather, he was my husband until I filed for divorce this morning. Gasps around the table. Derek's face somehow went even paler. I share this because it's relevant to what I'm about to present. You see, Derek doesn't know I'm S. Crawford. He doesn't know I own this company. He thinks I'm unemployed. He thinks I spend my days doing nothing while he supports me financially. Patricia shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Last night at the company gala, Derek publicly humiliated me. He called me lazy, unemployed, a burden. He said these things in front of many of you. Jerome looked at Derek with new understanding. So did several others. That personal humiliation led me to review company records more carefully than I have in the past. And what I found was deeply concerning. She passed folders to Jerome, who started distributing them around the table. What you have in front of you is evidence of systematic embezzlement by Derek Harrison and Vanessa Martinez. Over the past 2 years, they have stolen approximately $73,000 from this company through false expense reports, fake vendor invoices, and inflated project costs. The room erupted in whispers. Derek finally found his voice. That's not true. Sienna, this is crazy. You're upset about last night, I understand, but you can't just make up. Page 3, Sienna interrupted. Your expense report from March claiming $4,500 for a business trip to Chicago. There was no business trip. You and Vanessa went to a hotel in the city. The charge was made on a company card and labeled as travel expenses. Vanessa stood up. This is insane. You can't prove. Page 7. Vendor invoice for marketing materials from Premier Designs LLC. That's a shell company you created, Vanessa. The invoice is fake. The payment of $8,000 went to your personal account. Helen stepped forward and placed another document on the table. Bank statements showing the deposits, Helen said. All traceable back to accounts controlled by Ms. Martinez and Mr. Harrison. The board members were flipping through pages now, their faces showing anger and disbelief. This is a setup, Derek said, his voice desperate. She's angry about the divorce. She's trying to destroy my career. Your career? Sienna's voice was sharp now. Derek, you don't have a career. Not anymore. And you never really did. Do you want to know why you got promoted last year? He stared at her. Because I approved it. I approved the restructuring that created your position. I approved your salary increase. I approved every decision that benefited you because I thought you were my husband, my partner. I thought we were building a life together. Sienna, you don't get to talk anymore. You're done. She turned to the board. I'm calling for an immediate vote to terminate Derek Harrison and Vanessa Martinez for cause. All in favor? Every hand went up. Even Patricia, who'd witnessed the humiliation last night, looked satisfied. Motion carries, Jerome said officially. Helen stepped forward with termination papers. Mr. Harrison, Ms. Martinez, you're required to leave the building immediately. Your access cards will be deactivated. Your personal items will be boxed and delivered tomorrow. You have 10 minutes to exit the premises. Security appeared at the door. Sienna had arranged that in advance. Derek tried one more time. Sienna, please. Let's talk about this. 5 years of marriage has to mean something. She looked at him for a long moment. It did mean something. It meant I wasted 5 years on someone who never saw me as an equal. Someone who called me a burden while I literally paid his salary. She turned to security. Get them out. As they were being escorted away, Vanessa finally broke. This isn't fair. You lied about who you were. Sienna met her eyes. I kept my professional life private. You and Derek lied about everything else. There's a difference. The door closed behind them. The boardroom was silent for a moment. Then Jerome spoke. Ms. Crawford, on behalf of the board, I apologize. If we had known. You didn't need to know. But now you do. And now we move forward. She sat down at the head of the table and opened her laptop. Now let's discuss the actual business of this company. We have a lot of work to do. After the board meeting ended, Sienna stayed behind with Jerome and Helen. The other board members had left, still processing what they'd witnessed. That was the most dramatic board meeting I've attended in 40 years, Jerome said, loosening his tie. And I've seen some intense situations. I apologize for the chaos, Sienna said. Don't. You protected the company. That's what an owner should do. He paused. Though I have to ask, 5 years? You've been married to him for 5 years while owning the company he worked for? I wanted to know if he loved me for who I was, not what I had. And now you know. Now I know. Helen's phone buzzed. She checked it and frowned. Derek is calling me. 3rd time in the last hour. Don't answer, Sienna said. Let him sweat. Jerome leaned forward. What's your plan for the company now? Are you taking over operations directly? Not completely. You've done excellent work as chairman. I want you to stay, but I will be more involved. I want quarterly in-person meetings, detailed reports, and approval on any major decisions. Understood. And the positions left by the terminations. Promote from within. There's a woman in operations named Jennifer who's been there 8 years. Give her Derek's job. For marketing, bring in someone from outside. Fresh perspective. Done. After Jerome left, Sienna and Helen moved back to the private conference room. The investigator has more information, Helen said. Do you want to hear it now or wait? Now. Helen pulled up photos on her tablet. Derek went straight to Vanessa's apartment after leaving the building. They've been there for the past 3 hours. The investigator also checked their phone records. She showed Sienna the call logs. Dozens of calls in the past 24 hours. Derek to Vanessa. Vanessa to someone named Tony. Who's Tony? Her bookie. The one she owes $200,000 to. Sienna studied the records. She's panicking. They both are. And there's something else. Helen swiped to another screen. Remember the real estate listings they were looking at? They put an offer on a house yesterday. $800,000. They were planning to use your expected divorce settlement as the down payment. That offer is dead now. Very dead. But it shows intent. They were counting on getting money from you. Sienna sat back in her chair. The full scope of their plan was becoming clear. They'd underestimated her inheritance, yes, but they'd still expected to walk away with enough to start their new life. The house, the fresh start, the freedom from Vanessa's debts. What about criminal charges? Sienna asked. You said we could file. We can. Embezzlement, fraud, conspiracy to defraud. But here's what happens if we do. It becomes public record. The media gets involved. Your name comes up. Your wealth becomes public knowledge. I don't care about that anymore. Are you sure? Because once that cat's out of the bag, your privacy is gone forever. Every business decision you make will be scrutinized. Every investment will be news. You'll lose the anonymity you've worked so hard to maintain. Sienna considered this. She'd built her empire in the shadows, away from public attention. Going public meant exposure, scrutiny, pressure. But staying silent meant Derek and Vanessa might escape real consequences. What if we don't file criminal charges but we make sure they can never work in this industry again? Sienna asked. Blacklist them? That's harder to do officially, but word travels fast in corporate circles. Once people know they embezzled from Montgomery Industries, no reputable company will touch them. Make it happen. Quietly but thoroughly. Helen made notes. What about the divorce? Derek's going to fight it. On what grounds? We have a prenup that protects everything I own before the marriage. We never combined finances. He has no claim to anything. He doesn't know that yet. He probably thinks he can still get something. Let him think that for a little while longer. Let him hope. Then crush it completely. Helen raised an eyebrow. You're enjoying this. I'm not enjoying it. But I'm not going to pretend I feel bad about it either. They tried to use me. They called me lazy and stupid. They mocked me to my face and behind my back. They deserve everything they're getting. Fair enough. Sienna's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You can't do this. We'll fight back. D. She showed it to Helen. He's using Vanessa's phone, Helen said. His was company issued, so it's been deactivated. Ignore it. Another text. You lied about who you were. That's fraud. We can sue you for that. Sienna actually laughed. He thinks keeping my finances private is fraud? He's desperate. People get stupid when they're desperate. A third text. Everyone will know what kind of person you really are. A liar. A manipulator. Helen took the phone gently. Let me handle this. She typed quickly. Any further contact will be considered harassment and reported to authorities. All communication must go through legal representation. Helen Torres, attorney at law. The text stopped. What about Vanessa's gambling debts? Sienna asked. Can we use that? We can make sure her creditors know she just lost her job and has no way to pay them back. That puts pressure on her. But we can't directly contact them ourselves. What if someone anonymously tipped them off? Helen smiled. I don't know anything about that. They spent the next 2 hours going through every detail of the case. The evidence was airtight. The divorce was straightforward. The company restructuring was already in motion. At 7 p.m., Sienna's phone rang. Her mother. Sweetheart, I just heard the news. Are you okay? I'm fine, Mom. Who told you? Patricia Chin. She's married to my book club friend Rita. She said you revealed yourself as the owner of Derek's company and fired him. That's essentially what happened, yes. There was a pause. Your grandmother would be so proud. Sienna felt tears prick her eyes for the first time all day. You think so? I know so. Dorothy always said you had more strength than anyone realized. You just needed a reason to show it. I wish she was here to see this. She is, honey. She is. After hanging up with her mother, Sienna felt something shift inside her. The anger was still there, but it was controlled now. Focused. Helen packed up her briefcase. I'm going to file all the divorce papers tonight. Derek will be served tomorrow morning at Vanessa's apartment. How do you know he'll be there? The investigator confirmed it. He has nowhere else to go. Good. Helen hesitated at the door. Sienna, can I ask you something personal? Go ahead. Do you regret it? The 5 years with him? Sienna thought about it. The early days when Derek seemed kind. The laughter they'd shared. The quiet moments that had felt like love. Then she thought about last night. The humiliation. The mockery. The discovery of the affair. I regret trusting him, she finally said. But I don't regret learning the truth. Better now than in another 5 years. That's a good way to look at it. After Helen left, Sienna sat alone in the conference room. The city lights stretched out below her, thousands of windows glowing in the darkness. She'd spent 5 years pretending to be someone smaller than she was. 5 years hiding her success, her intelligence, her power. Never again. She pulled out her laptop and started drafting plans. Not for revenge exactly, but for building something better. She was going to expand Montgomery Industries, double the workforce, create better benefits, invest in innovation, and she was going to do it all under her own name. Derek had wanted to humiliate her. Instead, he'd set her free. Tomorrow the real work would begin. The next morning, Sienna woke up at 5 a.m. to her phone buzzing. Multiple news alerts. She grabbed the phone and saw the headlines. Mystery billionaire revealed. Sienna Crawford, owner of Montgomery Industries. Corporate wife was secret mogul all along. Woman humiliated at company gala owns the company. The story had leaked. Sienna suspected Patricia or one of the other board members had talked to someone. By dawn it was everywhere. Her phone rang. Jerome. Have you seen the news? He asked. I'm looking at it now. I'm sorry. I specifically told the board members this was confidential, but... It's fine, Jerome. It was going to come out eventually. The press is camped outside our building. They want a statement. They want an interview. They want everything. Tell them no comment for now. I'll issue a formal statement this afternoon through our PR team. We don't have a PR team anymore. Vanessa was. I know. Hire someone. Today. Use the firm that handles our investor relations. On it. After hanging up, Sienna scrolled through the articles. Some were factual, just reporting the basic story. Others were sensational, painting her as either a victim or a manipulator, depending on the outlet's angle. One article included a photo from last night's gala. Sienna standing near the dessert table, Derek in the background with his arm around Vanessa. The caption read, "Moments before public humiliation, billionaire heiress Sienna Crawford had no idea her husband was mocking her poverty to colleagues." Another article had dug up her grandmother's history. Dorothy Crawford's granddaughter continues family legacy of female financial power. Her phone rang again. Unknown number. She answered. Miss Crawford? This is Bradley Morrison from the Financial Tribune. I'd love to get your side of the story. She hung up. It rang again. Different number. Different reporter. She turned off her phone. Helen arrived at 8 a.m. with coffee and bagels. You're officially famous, Helen said, setting breakfast on the table. Or infamous, depending on who you ask. I never wanted to be famous. Too late now. But the good news is the story is mostly sympathetic to you. The narrative is genius businesswoman deceived by con artist husband. That's not bad. What about Derek and Vanessa? They're being destroyed online. Social media found them. Found their photos, their backgrounds, everything. Vanessa's gambling debts are public now. Someone leaked that too. Did you? I didn't leak anything. But I'm not sad someone else did. Sienna ate her bagel and reviewed the media coverage more carefully. Helen was right. Most outlets were framing her as the wronged party. A woman who'd built success quietly, only to be betrayed by the people closest to her. Derek's trying to give interviews, Helen said. He called 3 different news stations this morning. But they're all saying the same thing. They want your statement first. He's desperate to control the narrative. He's desperate, period. The divorce papers were served 2 hours ago. He knows he's getting nothing. How did he react? According to the process server, he threw the papers across the room and started crying. Sienna felt nothing. No sympathy, no satisfaction. Just cold factual acceptance. What about the criminal charges? She asked. Have you reconsidered? Helen pulled out her tablet. I have a recommendation. Don't file charges, but do give all the evidence to the district attorney's office. Let them decide. If they choose to prosecute, it's out of your hands. If they don't, you've still created a paper trail that will follow Derek and Vanessa forever. Do it. At noon, Sienna's PR team sent over a draft statement. She read it carefully, made edits, and approved it. The statement was released at 1 p.m. I am Sienna Crawford, majority owner of Montgomery Industries. For the past 5 years, I have maintained a private personal life while building my business through strategic investments and careful management. My marriage to Derek Harrison was separate from my professional activities. Recent events have brought my business ownership into the public eye. I want to be clear. I never misrepresented myself to my husband. I simply chose not to discuss my finances, which is my right as an individual. Mr. Harrison's termination from Montgomery Industries was based solely on evidence of embezzlement and fraud, not on our personal relationship. The company will continue to operate with integrity and transparency. I ask for privacy during this difficult time as I navigate both a divorce and the restructuring of my company's leadership. I will not be giving interviews or making further public statements at this time. Thank you for your understanding. The statement was picked up immediately. News outlets analyzed every word. Legal experts weighed in on the embezzlement claims. Relationship counselors debated whether Sienna should have told Derek about her wealth. By 3 p.m., Derek had managed to give an interview to a local news station. Helen sent Sienna the video link with a warning, "You're not going to like this." Sienna clicked play. Derek sat in front of the camera, looking disheveled and emotional. I loved Sienna, he said, his voice cracking. I thought we had a real partnership. But she lied to me for 5 years. She let me believe she was dependent on me when she was actually a billionaire. That's emotional manipulation. The interviewer asked, but you're accused of embezzling from her company. Those charges are fabricated. She's using her money and power to destroy me because I made a mistake at a party. I said some things I shouldn't have when I was drunk. But that doesn't justify what she's doing. What about the affair allegations? Vanessa and I are just friends. Sienna is jealous and using her resources to punish me for having a female friend. The interview continued with Derek painting himself as the victim of a vindictive billionaire ex-wife. Sienna turned it off halfway through. He's lying to everyone, she said quietly. And no one believes him, Helen replied. Look at the comments. She pulled up the social media reactions. Thousands of comments, almost all calling out Derek's story as fake. Dude really tried to play the victim after calling his billionaire wife jobless. Imagine being this stupid. She owns the company and he's claiming she's jealous of his friend? Math isn't mathing. The audacity of mediocre men never ceases to amaze. Sienna closed the laptop. I don't want to see any more. Smart. The internet is doing your work for you anyway. That evening, Sienna returned to her apartment. She walked through the space that had been her home for 3 years. Without Derek's things, it felt bigger, cleaner, more like hers. She poured herself a glass of wine and stood on the balcony watching the sunset. Her phone buzzed. Her mother. I saw Derek's interview, her mom said. What a pathetic man. Mom? I never liked him. I know I never said it, but I didn't. Something was always off about him. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have listened? Sienna thought about it. Probably not. She'd been so convinced that Derek loved her for herself, not her money, that she'd ignored all the signs. I'm sorry you're going through this, her mom continued. But I'm not sorry he's out of your life. You deserve someone who sees your value. All of it. Thanks, Mom. After hanging up, Sienna made a decision. She opened her laptop and started writing. Not a press statement this time. A plan. She was going to take everything she'd learned from this experience and use it to help other women. Women who'd been lied to, cheated on, manipulated. She started sketching out the idea for a foundation. Legal resources, financial education, support services. All free. All confidential. She'd call it the Dorothy Crawford Foundation after her grandmother. By midnight she had a full proposal. Budget, mission statement, initial programs. This was what she was meant to do. Not hide her success. Not pretend to be small. But use her resources to lift others up. Derek had tried to humiliate her into invisibility. Instead, he pushed her into the spotlight where she could do real good. 3 days after Sienna's statement went public, Derek showed up at her building. Security called her immediately. "Miss Crawford, Mr. Harrison is in the lobby. He's asking to see you. Tell him no." I did. He's refusing to leave. He says he'll stay here all day if he has to. Sienna looked at the security camera feed on her phone. Derek stood in the lobby, disheveled, holding flowers. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Call the police," she said. "He's trespassing." "Are you sure? Maybe if you just talk to him for 5 minutes?" "I'm sure. He's not welcome here. Call the police." 20 minutes later, 2 officers arrived. The security footage showed them speaking with Derek, who became agitated. He raised his voice, gesturing wildly. The officers remained calm, then eventually escorted him out of the building. Helen called immediately after. "I just heard from building security. Derek showed up." "He did. Police removed him." "Good. That's documented now. If he tries again, we can get a restraining order." "Do it anyway. I don't want to risk him showing up again. I'll file this afternoon." Later that day, Jerome called with an update. The board met this morning to discuss succession planning. Jennifer accepted the promotion to Director of Operations. She starts Monday. "Excellent. How's she handling it?" "She's thrilled but also nervous. She wanted me to thank you personally. She said she's been watching the company promote less qualified men for years. Tell her I look forward to working with her." "I will. Also, we hired a new PR firm. They're already fielding media requests. And I have to tell you, the press coverage has been overwhelmingly positive. Your statement was perfect. I'm not doing interviews." I told them that. They understand. "But there is one request I think you should consider." "What is it?" "The National Association of Women Business Leaders wants to give you an award. The Dorothy Crawford Legacy Award, named after your grandmother. It's their highest honor." Sienna felt her throat tighten. "An award named after my grandmother? They want to recognize both her contributions to business and yours. The ceremony is in 2 months. You'd have to give a short acceptance speech." "I'll think about it." "Take your time." "But Sienna, your grandmother would be proud. You know that, right?" After the call ended, Sienna sat in silence. An award in her grandmother's name. It felt right somehow. Like everything was coming full circle. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You've destroyed my life. I hope you're happy." Derek using yet another phone. She forwarded the message to Helen with a note. "Add to the restraining order file." That evening, Sienna's investigator sent a comprehensive report. Derek had moved back in with his parents, who lived 2 hours away. He'd been fired from 3 job interviews once the companies learned about the embezzlement allegations. His savings account was nearly empty. Vanessa was in worse shape. Her creditors were calling constantly. She tried to sell her car but couldn't get enough to cover her debts. She'd applied for bankruptcy protection. Sienna read the reports with clinical detachment. These were consequences of their own actions, not her doing. But there was one more thing she needed to do. She called Jerome. "I want to make a company-wide announcement. Tomorrow, all-hands meeting." "What's the topic?" "Integrity. Leadership. The future of Montgomery Industries." "I'll schedule it for 10 a.m. The next morning, Sienna walked into Montgomery Industries as the majority owner for the second time. But this time, everyone knew who she was. Employees stared as she passed. Some smiled. Others looked nervous. She heard whispers. "That's her. The owner. Can you believe she was married to Derek?" The auditorium was packed. Every employee had been required to attend. Nearly 800 people filled the seats. Sienna walked onto the stage with confidence. She wore a blue suit that Dorothy had given her years ago. Her grandmother's pearl necklace. Her own success. "Good morning," she said into the microphone. "My name is Sienna Crawford and I own this company." The room was silent. "I know the past week has been chaotic. Stories in the news, speculation, gossip. I want to address some of that directly. Yes, I was married to Derek Harrison. Yes, I kept my ownership of this company private from him. And yes, I terminated him for embezzlement and fraud. But this meeting isn't about Derek. It's about all of you and the future of Montgomery Industries. 5 years ago, I invested in this company because I saw potential. Not just for profit, but for creating something meaningful. Good jobs, quality products, ethical business practices. Under the previous leadership, we achieved some of that. But we can do better. Effective immediately, I'm announcing several changes. First, a 15% across-the-board raise for all non-executive employees, retroactive to the beginning of this quarter. Second, expanded healthcare benefits, including mental health coverage and family planning resources. Third, a new employee development program that prioritizes promoting from within and supporting continued education. Fourth, a whistleblower protection policy so that if anyone sees unethical behavior, like embezzlement, they can report it safely without fear of retaliation. She paused, letting that sink in. I didn't reveal myself as the owner to get attention. I revealed myself because this company needed leadership that lives up to its values. Leadership that sees you, respects you, and invests in you. My grandmother, Dorothy Crawford, built her fortune by believing in people. She taught me that business isn't just about money. It's about integrity. It's about treating people fairly and creating opportunities for everyone to succeed. That's what Montgomery Industries will be under my direct leadership. A place where hard work is rewarded. Where honesty matters. Where everyone has a fair shot. I know some of you witnessed what happened at the gala. You saw Derek humiliate me. You heard what he said. I don't blame any of you for that. But I want you to know that what happened that night taught me something important. Hiding who you are to make others comfortable doesn't work. Pretending to be smaller than you are doesn't protect you. It just makes you vulnerable to people who will take advantage. So I'm done hiding. I'm here. I'm in charge. And I'm committed to making this the best company in our industry. If you're with me, let's build something incredible together. If you're not, that's okay too. But this is the direction we're going. She stepped back from the microphone. For a moment, there was silence. Then someone started clapping. Then another. Then the whole auditorium erupted in applause. Sienna smiled. This felt right. This felt like the beginning of something real. After the meeting, employees approached her in waves. Thanking her, sharing their stories, expressing support. Jennifer, the new director of operations, introduced herself formally. Ms. Crawford, I just want to say thank you. For seeing my potential. For giving me this opportunity. You earned it, Sienna replied. I've been reading your reports for 2 years. You're the best person for this job. I won't let you down. I know you won't. That evening, Sienna attended a charity gala for women's education. Her first public appearance since the divorce was finalized. She wore a stunning black gown, her grandmother's diamonds, and confidence that came from knowing exactly who she was. Cameras flashed as she arrived. Reporters called out questions. Ms. Crawford, how are you handling the divorce? Any comment on Derek Harrison's blog? What's next for Montgomery Industries? She smiled and kept walking, her PR team handling the media. Inside, she was greeted warmly by business leaders, politicians, and activists. Many wanted to talk about the Dorothy Crawford Foundation. Others wanted to discuss investments or partnerships. One woman approached her tentatively. Miss Crawford? I'm Rebecca. I just wanted to say thank you. For what? For showing that you can survive betrayal and come out stronger. My husband did something similar to me. Your story helped me realize I didn't have to stay. Sienna took her hand. I'm sorry you went through that. But I'm glad you got out. I did. And I'm rebuilding. Just like you. They talked for several minutes. Rebecca shared her story, her struggles, her small victories. Sienna listened and offered encouragement. This, she realized, was why everything had happened. Not just to expose Derek and Vanessa, but to show other women that they could survive, rebuild, and thrive. Later, she gave a brief speech about the importance of financial literacy for women. Economic independence, she said to the crowd, is the foundation of all other freedoms. When you control your own money, you control your own life. No one can manipulate you. No one can diminish you. No one can make you small. The audience erupted in applause. After the event, Sienna's mother called. I watched your speech online, she said. Dorothy would be so proud. I'm so proud. Thanks, Mom. Have you thought about dating again? Sienna laughed. It's been 2 weeks since the divorce was finalized. I know. I'm just saying when you're ready, don't close yourself off. Not all men are like Derek. I know. But right now, I'm focused on the foundation, the company, and myself. That's fair. Just don't wait too long to be happy. I'm happy, Mom. Happier than I've been in years. And it was true. Without Derek's constant undermining, without the affair lurking in the shadows, Without the lies and manipulation, Sienna felt free. She was building something meaningful. She was helping people. She was being herself without apology. That night, alone in her apartment, Sienna opened a bottle of wine from her grandmother's collection. A 1985 vintage that Dorothy had saved for a special occasion. She poured a glass and toasted the empty room. To you, grandmother. For teaching me strength. For showing me that success means nothing if you can't be yourself. For reminding me that the best revenge is living well. She drank and felt Dorothy's presence somehow. In the apartment she'd purchased. In the business she'd built. In the foundation that would carry her name forward. Derek had wanted to make her feel worthless. Instead, he'd helped her discover her true worth. 6 months after the divorce, Sienna stood in the completed Dorothy Crawford Foundation headquarters, watching as the first clients walked through the doors. Women of all ages, all backgrounds, all with stories of financial manipulation, emotional abuse, or both. The foundation offered free legal consultations, financial planning, job training, and counseling. Maria, the foundation's director, gave Sienna a tour. We've served 200 women in our first month. The demand is incredible. That's both encouraging and heartbreaking, Sienna said. I know. But look at this. Maria showed her a wall of photos. Women who'd used the foundation's services and successfully left bad situations. New jobs, new apartments, new lives. This is Rebecca, Maria said, pointing to one photo. Remember her from the charity gala? Sienna recognized the woman who'd thanked her. How's she doing? She got certified as a paralegal through our job training program. She's working at a law firm now, making good money, supporting her 2 kids on her own. That's wonderful. It's because of you. This foundation, these resources, they're changing lives. Sienna felt tears prick her eyes. This was what success really meant. Not the money in her bank account, but the difference she could make. Montgomery Industries was thriving too. The company had expanded into 3 new markets. Employee satisfaction was at an all-time high. Jennifer had been promoted again, this time to senior vice president. Jerome sent regular updates praising the new culture Sienna had created. We're attracting the best talent in the industry, he'd written in his last email. People want to work for a company that treats them well. Revolutionary concept, right? Sienna had smiled reading it. Treating people well wasn't revolutionary. It was basic decency. But in corporate America, it was rare enough to be notable. She'd also started speaking at business conferences about ethical leadership and building companies with integrity. Her talks drew huge crowds. Other CEOs wanted to know her secrets. There are no secrets, she'd say. Pay people fairly. Respect their time. Create opportunities for growth. It's not complicated. On a Thursday afternoon, Sienna met with her investment team to review her portfolio. Her net worth had crossed $1 billion. Congratulations, her financial advisor said. You're officially a billionaire. I was a billionaire before. You were worth $847 million. Now you're worth $1.03 billion. That's a real milestone. Sienna shrugged. It's just a number. Maybe. But it's a number that gives you incredible power to do good. Then let's talk about doing more good. What charitable investments can we make? They spent 2 hours discussing education initiatives, environmental programs, and economic development projects. By the end of the meeting, Sienna had committed another $50 million to various causes. That evening, she attended the National Association of Women Business Leaders ceremony where she was receiving the Dorothy Crawford Legacy Award. She wore a gold gown, simple and elegant. Her grandmother's pearl necklace again. Her own diamond earrings that she'd bought herself after her first $100 million in profits. The ballroom was filled with successful women from across the country. CEOs, entrepreneurs, politicians, activists. When Sienna's name was called, the applause was thunderous. She walked to the stage and accepted the award, a crystal sculpture of a woman reaching toward the sky. Thank you, she said into the microphone. This award is named for my grandmother, Dorothy Crawford, who taught me everything I know about business, integrity, and strength. Dorothy built her fortune in an era when women couldn't even open bank accounts without male permission. She faced discrimination, mockery, and constant underestimation. But she never let any of that stop her. She taught me that success isn't just about making money. It's about maintaining your values while you do it. It's about lifting others as you climb. It's about refusing to be made small by people who can't handle your bigness. 6 months ago, I was publicly humiliated by my ex-husband. He called me lazy, jobless, a burden. He said these things in front of colleagues and strangers because he wanted to make himself feel bigger by making me feel smaller. What he didn't know was that I owned the company he worked for, that I was worth more than he could imagine, that I'd been supporting his career without him realizing it. When the truth came out, a lot of people asked me why I'd kept my success secret, why I'd let him think I was dependent on him. The answer is simple. I wanted to know if he loved me for who I was, not what I had. And I learned that he didn't. He loved the idea of being superior to me. He loved having someone to look down on. But that failure taught me something valuable. It taught me that hiding your light doesn't protect you. It doesn't make you safer or more loved. It just makes you invisible. So I stopped hiding. I claimed my power publicly. And I used it to build something meaningful. The Dorothy Crawford Foundation helps women escape the kind of manipulation I experienced. Montgomery Industries now operates with integrity and treats employees with respect. And I'm here tonight accepting this award as my full, authentic, powerful self. Dorothy taught me that the best revenge isn't destruction. It's construction. Building something so successful, so meaningful, so impactful that the people who try to diminish you become irrelevant. So to every woman here tonight, don't hide your success. Don't make yourself small. Don't let anyone convince you that your power is something to be ashamed of. Be big. Be bold. Be unapologetically yourself. Thank you. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. Afterward, women lined up to talk to her, to share their stories, to thank her, to ask advice. One woman, a young entrepreneur, said, "I've been hiding my success from my boyfriend. After hearing your story, I realize I need to tell him the truth." "What are you afraid will happen?" Sienna asked. "That he'll leave me. Then he's not the right person for you. The right person celebrates your success. They don't require you to diminish it." The woman nodded, tears in her eyes. "You're right. Thank you." As Sienna left the ceremony that night, she felt complete. Not because Derek was gone, but because she'd filled the space he left with something real. Purpose, impact, authenticity. She was no longer pretending to be someone she wasn't. She was exactly who she was meant to be. 1 year after the gala where Derek humiliated her, Sienna stood in her office at Montgomery Industries, looking out at the city. The company had just been ranked as one of the best places to work in the country. Employee turnover was down 60%. Profits were up 40%. Jennifer had been promoted to executive vice president and was being featured in business magazines as a rising star in corporate leadership. The Dorothy Crawford Foundation had served over 2,000 women across 5 cities. Rebecca, the woman Sienna met at the charity gala, now worked for the foundation as a legal advocate, helping other women navigate divorces and financial independence. Sienna's personal net worth had reached $1.2 billion. She'd given away nearly $200 million in the past year to various causes. And she was happy. Genuinely, deeply happy. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "Lunch today? I have someone I want you to meet." Sienna smiled. Her mother had been trying to set her up for months. She'd resisted, not ready to date, not interested in romance. But lately she'd been thinking maybe it was time to be open to possibility again. "Okay," she texted back. "But no pressure. Just lunch." "Just lunch," her mother confirmed. At noon, Sienna met her mother at a restaurant downtown. Sitting with her was a man about Sienna's age, wearing casual clothes and a warm smile. "Sienna, this is Nathan. He's a professor at the university. Environmental science." Nathan stood and shook her hand. "It's nice to meet you. Your mother talks about you constantly." "I'm sure she does. All good things, I hope. Mostly about how you're changing the world. It's impressive." They sat down, and Sienna braced herself for the usual questions about her money, her company, her fame. Instead, Nathan asked, "What's your favorite thing about running a foundation?" She blinked, surprised. "The stories. Hearing from women who've rebuilt their lives. Seeing them discover their own strength. That must be incredibly rewarding." They talked for 2 hours. About the environment, about education, about books and travel and small human things. Nathan didn't ask about her divorce. He didn't ask about Derek. He treated her like a person, not a headline. When lunch ended, he said, "I'd like to see you again. If you're interested." "I think I am," Sienna said honestly. Her mother beamed. Over the following months, Sienna and Nathan developed a friendship that slowly became something more. He respected her work, admired her success, and never once made her feel like she needed to be smaller for his comfort. "You're extraordinary," he told her one evening over dinner. "And I don't just mean because you're successful. You're kind, thoughtful, and you genuinely care about making the world better. You see all that?" "Of course I do. Don't you?" She realized she did. Finally, she saw herself the way she deserved to be seen. Meanwhile, Derek's life had continued its downward spiral. He'd moved to a different state, taken a job in sales making a fraction of his old salary. His parents had stopped supporting him financially, tired of his complaints and excuses. Vanessa had disappeared completely. Last Sienna heard, she was working at a department store in Ohio, living paycheck to paycheck. Sienna didn't think about them often. They'd become footnotes in her story, not main characters. One afternoon, while Sienna was touring a new foundation location, she saw Derek across the street. He looked older, tired, defeated. Their eyes met for a brief second. She felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no lingering pain. He opened his mouth as if to speak, then closed it. He looked away and kept walking. Sienna turned back to the foundation tour, forgetting him before she even entered the building. That evening, she had dinner with Nathan at her apartment. She'd cooked, something she rarely did but enjoyed when she had time. "This is delicious," Nathan said. "You have many talents. I had a good teacher. My grandmother taught me to cook." "The famous Dorothy Crawford?" "The very same. She said every successful person should know how to feed themselves. Independence starts in the kitchen." Nathan laughed. "She sounds like an amazing woman." She was. "I wish you could have met her." "I wish I could have too. But I see her in you." Sienna smiled. "That's the best compliment you could give me." Later, as they sat on the balcony watching the city lights, Nathan said, "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you ever regret it? Revealing who you were? Ending your marriage publicly?" Sienna thought about it. "No. I regret staying hidden for so long. I regret thinking I needed to be small to be loved. But revealing the truth? That was the best decision I ever made. Even though it was painful? Especially because it was painful. Pain is how we grow. How we learn who we really are." Nathan took her hand. "You're remarkable, you know that?" "I'm learning to believe it." 3 months later, Sienna and Nathan were officially dating. He accompanied her to business events, foundation galas, and public appearances. He was proud of her success and never tried to compete with it. The media loved them. "Billionaire finds love again," the headlines read. Sienna Crawford's happy ending. But Sienna knew this wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. On the 1-year anniversary of the Dorothy Crawford Foundation's opening, Sienna gave a speech to a room full of donors, volunteers, and the women they'd helped. "A year ago, I was at my lowest point," she said. "Humiliated, betrayed, questioning everything about myself. Today I stand before you as the happiest I've ever been. Not because I'm wealthy. Not because I got revenge on the people who hurt me. But because I learned to stop hiding who I am. This foundation exists because I refused to let my pain be wasted. I took my worst experience and turned it into something that helps others. That's what I want everyone to remember. Your pain has purpose. Your struggles can become your strength. Your worst moments can lead to your greatest achievements. Don't hide. Don't shrink. Don't let anyone make you believe that your power is something to be ashamed of. Be yourself, fully and unapologetically. The right people will celebrate you. The wrong people will reveal themselves. And when they do, don't waste time seeking revenge. Build something beautiful instead. Success is the best vindication." The applause was deafening. That night, Sienna returned to her apartment with Nathan. They stood on the balcony, looking out at the city she'd conquered not through force, but through being authentically herself. "What are you thinking about?" Nathan asked. "About how far I've come. About everything I've built." "Regrets?" "Only one. I wish I'd claimed my power sooner. But I suppose I needed to learn the hard way. And now I'm free. Truly free. Not from Derek, though that helps. But free from the fear of being too much. Too successful. Too powerful. Too me." Nathan kissed her forehead. "You're perfect exactly as you are." Sienna smiled. "I'm starting to believe that." As she stood there, looking out at her city, her company, her foundation, her life, Sienna felt a profound sense of peace. Derek had tried to destroy her with humiliation. Instead, he'd set her free. She'd built an empire, helped thousands of women, and found genuine love. She'd honored her grandmother's legacy and created her own. She was no longer hiding in the shadows. She was standing in the light, powerful and unashamed. And it felt like victory.